and welcome to my presentation on perspectives in psychology. In this presentation we will cover two psychological perspectives, behaviourism and cognitive psychology. We will discuss what is behaviourism and what is cognitive psychology, the key assumptions of both and their key theorists, then analyse the differences between behaviourism and cognitive psychology. Finally, we will cover the application of behaviourism and cognitive psychology in contemporary psychology. So, behaviourism. Behaviourism in psychology is based on the approach that emphasises the study of observable behaviours, rather than internal mental states or emotions. It suggests that all behaviours are learned through interactions and the environment, and that behaviours can be shaped by punishment or reinforcement. The central idea of behaviourism is that psychological research should focus only on what can be measured and rejects methods that study the mind. Behaviourism has been influential in fields such as education, therapy, and animal training. However, it has been criticised for ignoring internal mental processes, which led to the rise of cognitive psychology as a counterpart. So, the key assumptions of behaviourism. Behaviour is learned. Behaviourists believe that all behaviours are learned through interaction with the environment rather than being innate or genetically determined. They focus on observable behaviour. Behaviourisms reject the study of internal mental states, such as thoughts and emotions, because they cannot directly be observed or measured. It emphasises only on the study of observable and measurable behaviours. Environment shapes behaviour. Behaviourists argue that the environment plays a crucial role in shaping behaviour. The environment a person is exposed to influences how they behave. Conditioning is the primary mechanism of learning. Behaviourists believe that learning occurs through two primary types of conditioning: classical conditioning or associative learning, where a neutral stimulus becomes associated with an unconditioned stimulus to produce a conditioned response. For example, in Pavlov's experiment, dogs learned to associate the sound of a bell with food, so began to salivate at the sound of the bell without food even being present. Operant conditioning, or instrumental learning, where behaviours are shaped by reward or punishment following a behaviour. For example, in Skinner's experiment, rats learned to press a lever to get food, as they were rewarded for doing so. No need to consider internal mental processes. Behaviourism assumes that internal thoughts, feelings, and cognitive processes do not need to be studied to understand behaviour. It focuses purely on how external factors influence observable behaviour. All species are similar in their learning processes. Behaviourism assumes that principles of learning apply across species. This idea is seen in the use of animals in behaviour studies, such as Pavlov's dogs and Skinner's rats, suggesting that humans and animals learn similarly. Behaviour is influenced by reinforcement and punishment. Behaviourists argue that behaviour can be controlled or modified by using rewards or punishments. These external factors increase or decrease the likelihood of certain behaviours occurring in the future. So, the key theorists of behaviourism. Several key theorists have made significant contribution to the development of behaviourism, and here are some of the more influential figures. So, John B. Watson. Watson argued that psychology should focus exclusively on observable behaviour, and that mental states, thoughts and feelings should not be the focus of psychological studies. Watson promoted the idea that behaviour is learned from the environment through conditioning. His famous Little Albert experiment demonstrates that emotional responses like fear could be conditioned in humans. B.F. Skinner. Skinner is known for his work on operant conditioning. He expanded on Watson's ideas by expanding on how consequences like punishment and reward shape behaviour. Skinner introduces reinforcement, positive and negative, and punishment as a way to modify behaviour. His work on rats demonstrated how behaviours could be shaped by reward and punishment. He used a special box called the Skinner box for his experiments on rats. Ivan Pavlov. Pavlov was a Russian physiologist, whose work on classical conditioning laid the groundwork for behaviourist theory. His work focused on how reflexes could be conditioned through associations between stimuli. His research on classical conditioning demonstrates that involuntary behaviours could be conditioned through repeated association with another stimulus. Pavlov's most famous experiment involved dogs, where he showed that a neutral stimulus, a bell, could be associated with food, which led to the dog salivating at the sound of a bell alone. Edward Thorndike, well known for his work on the law of effect, Thorndike states that behaviours followed by satisfying consequences are more likely to be repeated, whereas behaviour followed by negative consequences were less likely to occur. Thorndike's works contributed to the operant conditioning theory, which was later expanded by Skinner. Edward Thorndike's puzzle box experiments with cats demonstrated how animals could escape from a box through trial and error, gradually improving their behaviour over time. These theorists helped shape the behaviourist perspective, which has had a lasting impact on psychology. So we're now going to explore cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology emerged in the 20th century in reaction to behaviourism, which largely ignored internal processes of the mind. Cognitive psychology is the branch of psychology that studies mental processes such as perception, memory, thinking, problem-solving, language, and decision-making. It focuses on how people acquire, process, store, and retrieve information. It explores how we interpret the world around us and how our mental processes affect our behaviour. Key assumptions of cognitive psychology. Here are the key assumptions. Mental processes can be studied scientifically. Cognitive psychology assumes that mental processes, although internal and invisible, such as memory, perception, and attention, are able to be studied using experimental methods, observation, and neuroimaging techniques. Humans act as information processors. Cognitive psychologists believe that the mind functions like a computer, processing information in sequences. We take in information, store it, and retrieve it when needed, similar to how a computer receives, stores, and processes information. Cognition is active, not passive. Unlike behaviourists, cognitive psychologists believe that people actively interpret and manipulate information they receive from the world around them. It is assumed that humans engage in active thought processes that shape how they perceive and respond to their environment. Cognitive development occurs in stages. Cognitive psychology assumes that cognitive abilities develop in a predictable sequence throughout a person's lifespan. Cognitive development theories like that of Jean Piaget suggest that individuals move through the stage of cognitive development as they mature. Now we're going to explore some of the key theorists of cognitive psychology. Jean Piaget. Piaget is one of the most influential figures in cognitive psychology and developmental psychology. He is best known for his theory in cognitive development in children, which emphasises that cognitive abilities develop in distinct stages. Piaget identifies 4 stages. Sensory motor, from birth to 18 to 24 months. The main achievement during this stage is object permanence, knowing that an object still exists even when out of sight. Pre-operational, from around 2 to 7 years. At the beginning of this stage, a child does not use operational thinking. They believe things are as they appear to them, as opposed to using any logic or reasoning. Thinking is intuitive and based on the child's own view of the world. Concrete operational, ages 7 to 11. Piaget considered this stage as a major turning point in a child's thinking, as it meant they were able to process their thoughts internally without acting them out. It marks the beginning of logical thought. Formal operational, adolescence to adulthood. At this stage, adolescents are able to think more logically about the world around them, able to forward plan and create multiple solutions when faced with a problem. Piaget suggests that each stage, a child's thinking is different to every other stage, and that each stage involves a different type of intelligence. Lev Vygotsky. Vygotsky was a Russian psychologist best known for creating the theory known as the socio-cultural theory of cognitive development. His work focuses on the role of social interaction and culture in cognitive development. He emphasised that cognitive learning occurs through interaction with others and cultural tools like language. Some of the key concepts of this theory are zone of proximal development. This concept refers to the range of tasks that a child can achieve with the help of a more knowledgeable person, more knowledgeable other. Vygotsky believed that a more knowledgeable other is like a parent or teacher would guide a child's cognitive development. Elementary functions. Vygotsky believed that there are 4 elementary functions: attention, sensation, perception, and memory, that became higher elementary mental functions through social interaction. Social and cultural influences. Vygotsky believed that children internalize the cultures that surround them, helping to shape their cognitive development. Language. He believed language was the root of all learning and play a crucial role in cognitive development. Private speech. He believed that private speech, when a child talks to themselves through play, is a sign of cognitive development. Noam Chomsky. Chomsky is a linguist who profoundly influences cognitive psychology, particularly in the area of language acquisition. He challenged the behaviourist view of language learning, which suggested that language is learned solely through reinforcement, and proposed that humans are born with an innate universal grammar system that underlines all language. He famously critiqued B.F. Skinner's book and argued that behaviourism couldn't account for the complexities of language learning. So, similarities between behaviourism and cognitive psychology. Behaviourism and cognitive psychology, although different in their approach, share some similarities. Focus on learning. Both behaviourism and cognitive psychology focus on learning and understanding how people learn. Behaviourism looks at observable behaviours and their reinforcement or punishment, whereas cognitive psychology examines how mental processes like memory, attention, or problem solving contribute to learning. Scientific method. Both fields rely on empirical scientific methods for studying behaviour and cognition. They analyse experiments and data collection to analyse and draw conclusions. Role of stimulus and response. Both perspectives acknowledge that external events, situations and responses play important roles in shaping behaviour, with behaviourism emphasising on observable responses and cognitive psychology focusing on internal mental processes. Interest in the influence of environment. Both behaviourism and cognitive psychology agree that environment plays a significant role in shaping behaviour and mental processes, though they may differ on how it affects an individual. Focus on the individual's experience. Although behaviourism tends to focus more on external behaviour and cognitive psychology on more internal processes, both theories are concerned with understanding how an individual's experiences influence their behaviour and thought processes. So, differences between behaviourism and cognitive psychology. Behaviourism and cognitive psychology differ in several fundamental ways. Here are some of the key differences. Focus on study. Behaviourism focuses on observable behaviours and the way they are shaped by the environment. It emphasises the relationship between stimuli and responses, often ignoring mental states. Cognitive psychology focuses on mental processes such as memory, perception, and problem solving. It is interested in understanding how the mind processes information and how these processes influence behaviour. Approach to learning. Behaviourism sees learning primarily as a process of conditioning, either classical or operant. It focuses on how behaviours are acquired or modified through associations or reinforcements. Cognitive psychology sees learning as an active process involving the mind's processing of information. Cognitive psychologists focus on concepts like schemas, mental representations, and cognitive structure to explain how learning happens. Role of the environment. Behaviourism strongly emphasises the role of the environment in shaping behaviour. According to behaviourists, the environment determines behaviour through reinforcement and punishment. Cognitive psychology acknowledges the environment's role, but focuses more on how individuals interpret and mental process the environment. Cognitive psychology sees the mind as an active participant in how behaviour unfolds. Research methods. Behaviourism primarily uses controlled laboratory experiments with an emphasis on observable behaviour, where cognitive psychology uses a variety of research methods, including experiments, but also relies heavily on cognitive models computer simulations, and neuroimaging to understand mental processes. Assumptions about the mind. Behaviorism tends to assume that animals and humans learn in similar ways, focuses on external visible behaviours. Cognitive psychology assumes that humans have complex mental processes that go beyond simple stimulus response mechanisms. Cognitive psychology view the mind as an information processor likened to a computer that actively interprets and organises information. The application of behaviorism to contemporary issues in psychology. Behaviorism has had a significant impact on contemporary issues in psychology, especially in areas such as education, mental health, and social influence. Here are some ways in which behaviorism is applied to contemporary issues in psychology. So, behavioural therapy in mental health. Cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, which integrates behaviorism with cognitive psychology, is a widely used therapeutic approach. CBT focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns and behaviours that contribute to mental health, such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Behaviour modification in education, such as positive reinforcement in classrooms, where teachers use rewards to reinforce desired behaviours, like completing assignments or being respectful. Behaviourist principles suggest that reinforcing positive behaviours will increase the likelihood of those behaviours occurring again. Addiction treatment. An approach called contingency management can be effective for addiction treatment. It involves reinforcing sobriety and positive behaviours with tangible rewards. For instance, drug-free urine samples can be reinforced with rewards like vouchers. Social influences and media. Social learning and media exposure. Behaviorism, particularly the work of Albert Bandura, emphasises that people can learn by observing others, a concept central to the understanding of media influence. For example, seeing violence in video games may influence children into imitating those behaviours. Behaviorism continues to play a key role in addressing contemporary issues in psychology. Its principles of reinforcement, punishment, and behaviour modification are still widely applied, as shown in these examples. However, modern psychology tends to use a more integrative approach, combining behaviourist ideas with cognitive, emotional, and social factors to create more effective interventions. The application of behaviorism to contemporary issues in psychology. The application of cognitive psychology in contemporary issues in psychology. Cognitive psychology has a profound impact on contemporary psychology and has been used to address a wide range of psychological issues. Here are some of the key applications of cognitive psychology in contemporary psychology. Cognitive behavioural therapy in mental health. Integrating cognitive psychology principles with behavioural techniques, CBT helps individuals identify and challenge distorted thought patterns and beliefs that contribute to mental health problems. Memory research and the criminal justice system. In the criminal justice system, cognitive psychology has helped understand the fallibility of eyewitness testimony, highlighting how memory can be influenced by leading questions, stress, or the passage of time. This has led to reforms in how police conduct interviews and gather evidence. Cognitive psychology in education. Cognitive theories of learning emphasise the role of attention, memory, and problem-solving in education. For instance, dual coding theory, suggesting that combining verbal and visual information enhances learning, and this idea has been applied to educational content, where teachers combine images and diagrams alongside the text to improve comprehension and retention. Cognitive psychology in artificial intelligence. AI have also benefited from cognitive psychology, especially in developing models that simulate human thinking processes. Cognitive theories of perception and memory have been used to create algorithms that mimic human decision-making, allowing AI systems to perform tasks such as language processing, facial recognition, and even problem-solving. Cognitive psychology continues to have a major impact on contemporary psychological issues. By studying how we perceive, think, remember, and solve problems, cognitive psychology offers valuable insights and practical applications in various areas such as mental health, education, decision-making, technology, and social influence. Along with behaviorism, its integration with other psychological approaches has led to more holistic treatments and interventions, improving outcomes for individuals across many domains. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.